Enid, Oklahoma, from wheat fields to the economic hub of northwest Oklahoma, the social, medical, and educational center for the region. Enid is a safe and economic place to live, work, and raise a family, a city with an entrepreneurial spirit. Enid is a community overflowing with boundless opportunities, building an original heritage and pulsating with a vibrant quality of life. Now join Steve Kime as he brings another exciting edition of City Connections.
Hello and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Kime, Director of Marketing and Public Relations for the City of Enid. And once again, you can see that we've changed our shooting location. We're not in the quiet, cool confines of Pegasus Studios. We are at Enid Public Transportation Authority headquarters, if you will. And our guest today will be the General Manager of EPTA, and that's James Neal. And we will talk with James in just a few moments. Thank you for being with us today on City Connections. Welcome to the safe confines of Enid Public Transportation Authority bus. And as I mentioned in our opening, our guest today is the General Manager of EPTA, James Neal. James, welcome. It's good to have you on this nice, warm Oklahoma day. But we could be walking, right? But we have the opportunity to be on the bus.
Absolutely.
As a General Manager, can you just share with our viewing audience, what is your role as GM of EPTA?
Sure, Steve. Thank you. The role of general manager in any organization is always to oversee the operations of the organization and make sure that it's running effectively. At EPTA right now, that's not just overseeing the daily operations, but also really overseeing a period of transition in the organization as we're working to transform Enid's transit to make it more efficient and more effective so that we can provide a better service within the means that we have available in our budget.
One thing that we want to share, and one of the key reasons for doing our City Connections program with EPTA, is due to the upcoming changes that will take place. And we want to assure everyone that the changes in the program, if you will, is really to enhance service. And we'll talk about that more throughout our program today. James, I know you've been in the Navy and other pieces of your background. How does that support your general manager role that you have today?
My service in the Navy really prepared me for running large organizations, for managing people, which is really the most important part of the organization is our people that we have working here. They're our most valuable asset. And so being able to get them the resources that they need and being able to help them get out into the community and do the job effectively is really my goal. And I think that my background in the service helps me do that effectively.
We're inside one of the many buses that you have in your particular fleet. It looks like about 10 to 12 different seats, and then rooms for wheelchairs here in the back. I guess EPTA has been around since around early 1900s, 1907, somewhere around there. Can you kind of give us a historical overview from way back to the early days to here we are in 2013?
Yeah, EPTA in its current form has a history that dates back to 1984. But public transit in Enid has a long history that dates back to 1907. Back to statehood, Enid had its own trolley car system, which lasted up until the early 30s. And then from the 30s to about the 60s, there was a privately owned and operated bus system in Enid, which worked pretty much like a taxi cab service. It went out of business just due to economics. The fares were having to increase more than people were willing to pay at the time. And then for about 10 or 15 years, the city really was operating off of church buses, taxi cab services. There wasn't really a formal public transit system until EPTA was put into its charter in 1984. It operated on an on-demand service, meaning that you called when you wanted a ride and they came and picked you up from 1984 until 2008. And in 2008, EPTA instituted a fixed route bus system with the intent being to create a fixed route like you would see in a larger city like Chicago or Houston. And that system has carried us over until May of this year when we've entered the transition period that I talked about before, trying to go back to a more efficient service to operate within the means of our budget.
Well, I always think it's interesting to find the historical background of any organization, to know where you've come from and kind of where you're going. And on our program today, we want to share where EPTA is going, the upcoming changes that will take place in the next few weeks. And James will kind of give us a play-by-play and talk us through that. So we're going to take this break and we'll be back to talk with James Neal, the General Manager of EPTA.
Hello, my name is Eric Benson. I'm the City Manager for Enid, Oklahoma. We're located in northwest Oklahoma, just a short drive from Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Wichita. We're the economic, social, medical, political, and educational hub of the area. Not only do we have the largest retail trade center in the area, serving a customer base of over 200,000 people throughout northwest Oklahoma and southwest Kansas, but we have a diversified economy that continues to provide jobs for the people of the area and opportunity for future growth. Oil and agriculture have always been major components of Enid's economy, but we've diversified our industrial base and we're the home of many nationally recognized corporations. Enid is a safe and economic place to live. It's a great place to work. It's an even better place to raise a family. Our air is clean, our lifestyle refreshing. We have all the amenities of a large city, but we retain the friendly atmosphere of a small town. So if your company is thinking of relocating, I hope you'll consider Enid, Oklahoma. I promise you'll find a community that is overflowing with boundless opportunities. We're building an original heritage and we're pulsing with a vibrant quality of life. Learn more about Enid on our website at enid.org or call me at 580-616-7246. Hope to see you soon.
Welcome back to City Connections. I'm Steve Kime. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is James Neal, General Manager of Enid Public Transportation Authority. James, as we were talking earlier, our program today is kind of dedicated in the reorganization or the enhancement of services for EPTA. My question to you is, how is EPTA funded? Where's the money involved here?
Enid Transit, like most transit associations and authorities throughout the country, is funded primarily by grant money, both state grant money and federal grant money. We also receive in-kind services and an annual contribution from the City of Enid. We have local contracts that we fulfill with various organizations hauling their folks. And then we have, of course, the passenger fares, the fares that people pay when they get on the bus for a ride.
So it's important to note that just the fare that individuals pay, that doesn't come close at all to funding the operation.
The passenger fares is the smallest portion of our funding. And when somebody gets on the bus, the fare that they're paying to ride the bus pays a pretty small portion of what it actually costs to operate the vehicle for that ride that they're taking.
And we know that you've had to make some difficult choices or hard decisions to keep EPTA up and running due to the budget crisis. And it's important to know that throughout the state and across the nation, various entities are finding less monies through grant money and less money's coming in, so they're making hard decisions. It's just not EPTA alone, it's across the country.
That's correct. It's really all transit authorities. They've really taken a hit, as a lot of other government-funded organizations have.
You're touching on the challenges that you face, and this is a new role for you, at least with Enid Public Transportation. But what are they just basically financial challenges that you face?
They're financial challenges, partly due to reductions in our grant funding. We've seen significant reductions in our grant funding over the last 2 years, and we're projecting even more reductions in our grant funding next year. It's also partly due to how we've been operating in the past. We've had a fixed route system that has been underutilized and cost a lot of money to operate, and we weren't carrying enough passengers really to justify the fixed route service in the past.
Our guest today on City Connections is James Neal, the General Manager of Enid Public Transportation Authority. James, another question in regard to changes. And a note that you had shared with me, there will be some system changes. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what's involved there?
Absolutely. What we're doing is going away from the fixed route system that EPTA has operated since 2008. That system was operating 3 fixed routes that people are familiar with, the Bluebird, Blackbird, and Redbird routes. There might be times on those routes when a bus would make a complete circuit of the city and only load one passenger, or sometimes none. And we simply don't have the funds to be able to operate that way anymore. So what we're doing is matching the buses that we have with both our general riders, which are the people that previously got picked up on our fixed route system, and what we call our paratransit riders, which are our seniors and disabled. We can pick all of those people up with the same type of bus. In the past, we've been operating 2 buses in parallel to service those 2 parts of our ridership. In the future, by going to a curb-to-curb service, we can use the same bus to service both of those portions of our ridership. So in other words, starting July 22nd, when we say curb to curb, the bus will come to the curb in front of your residence or place of business, wherever you need to get picked up, and will carry you to the same on the other end. They'll carry you to the curb in front of where you need to go.
Okay. We're in the maintenance facility for Enid Public Transportation Authority for our edition of City Connections, and we'll have some closing comments with James right after this.
Morning, ma'am. Morning. How are you? I'm just fine. Hi, how are you? Fine. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on City Connections. My guest today is James Neal, the General Manager of EPTA. James, during the transition or the enhancement of services that will take place, and I believe you mentioned July 22nd is the date for many of these changes to take place. I understand that there'll be an increase in fares and also the hours of operation. Can you share with our viewers what to expect after June 22nd?
Starting July 22nd, we're going to be reducing our operating hours to a more standard schedule for what you'd see in most other transits, which is going to be from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m., which means our last pickup of the day will be at 7 p.m. That's cutting back a little bit from what we've been running in the past. We've gone out until 10 p.m., but we have to be able to focus our resources during the higher ridership hours during the day, which is really that 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Period. The fares will go to a flat $2 per ride for everyone, excluding minors, people under 12 years old. In the past, it's been $2 per ride for the paratransit riders and $1 per ride for our fixed route riders. So in the future, everybody will be receiving the same service, so everybody will be paying that $2 fare. I think it's worth noting that in the 1980s, when this service started, people were paying $1.50 just to board, and then there was a per mile fee after that. And when we went to a fixed route system in 2008, the fare was $2. So we're not increasing the fares above what we've seen historically in the past. In fact, when you consider how the economy's grown, we're actually going to be charging less than we were in 2008.
And it's be very hard pressed to find any organization that has the same pricing say 30 years prior to the current date.
Absolutely.
I understand some technology upgrades will take place, and I still want to mention July 22nd. I was back in June there for just a few moments ago, but it's important to note that this is July 22nd. Technology upgrades, James?
Yes, we're doing a number of things to make the system operate more efficiently, both for us, for our dispatchers and drivers, and for the public. The biggest thing that won't really be seen by the public is a change in the way that we're going to dispatch the buses. That's all done by verbal communications over the radio right now and by handwritten logs. Requires a lot of redundancy in writing and transcribing logs. It slows down our operations. We're going to go to an all computerized dispatching system where we can dispatch it, record all the data we need, and then download it all by computer. That's going to increase our efficiency. It's going to enable us to operate a little bit leaner. And we'll free up some more time for us to be able to dedicate to the public. We're also going to be putting in place an automated telephone system where the public will be able to call in and get answers to a lot of their questions, both in English and in Spanish. And we're working on an online reservation system where people will be able to go on their computer or download a free app to their phone or tablet or other device and make reservations or cancel reservations for rides right there on the computer.
One final question for you. I realize that your staff has had to be really rather flexible with, say, new hours, but with just changes in general. What can the general public do in regard to this change on July 22nd? Any suggestions to make this transition really work?
Yeah, there are a few things the public can do, and I want to touch on something you said there real quick. I want to commend the staff and the workers here at EPTA. They've done a tremendous job in being flexible and making changes to keep the system operating as we go through this transition period. There are some things the public can do to help us operate better and more effectively and more efficiently. Primarily, we need for people, when they make a ride, to either be at the appointed place and time when we show up, ready to get on the bus, or to call ahead and cancel that ride. When we have what we call no-shows, which is someone scheduling a ride on the bus and then them not showing up or not being there, we still have to drive to that destination. We still have to spend that time and fuel getting there. So if we can cut that down as much as possible, that would help us out a lot. Also, if the public could be as flexible as possible with their trips, our busiest times of the day are between 6 to 9 a.m. and between about 4 and 7 p.m., getting people to and from work. So if they have rides that aren't essential, where they can schedule not in those time periods, it would really help us out if they could opt for somewhere between 9 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
James, I said one last question. Now this is it, one last question. What is the phone number that people can call just to get information, or just the important phone number that they need to be mindful of?
Sure, 580-233-RIDE. That number will stay the same, and like I said, after July 22nd, we'll have an automated system on there in English and in Spanish where they can get their questions answered. And if they need personalized help, they'll still be able to get through to the dispatcher like they can right now.
Okay. Well, James, welcome to the City of Enid. We're pleased that you're on the team, and as General Manager of EPTA, we welcome you, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working to make the system more efficient and more effective for the public.
Very good. And thank you for being with us today on City Connections. Again, our guest today has been James Neal, the General Manager of Enid Public Transportation Authority. I'm Steve Kime, Director of Public Relations and Marketing, your host for City Connections. If you have a topic or suggestion that you'd like to see covered here on City Connections, please email me at thefuture@enid.org. Thank you for being with us. Make it a great day.